Alright, good morning guys. So today I wanted to quickly go over how we would make the Kangaroo chili con carne recipe that you guys have in your text. Just before I start off, you can substitute just a plain beef if you want, but it kind of does defeat the purpose of doing this particular recipe. So you guys will be using 2 teaspoons of oil, half an onion finely diced, a clove of garlic, half a red capsicum diced up, 2 teaspoons of Mexican chili powder, a tin of tomatoes. I think they're going to be 400 grams, generally speaking, is how much you'll need for this one. Tablespoon of tomato paste and a quarter cup of cold water. You'll also require 200 grams of kidney beans, which is about half a tin, I believe. You'll also be making a bush chip, so you'll need to get some kind of wrap. Doesn't particularly matter what type. And you'll need to get your hands on some seasoning. Now, for the point of this prac is that we're using native ingredients. So I recommend something like this. This one in particular has Tasman black pepper, mountain pepper in it. I know words, I got this. So that's what we're using today. The recipe itself is pretty straightforward. I'm going to just basically go over the sauce. I'm pretty sure you guys can put the chips together by yourself, but I will explain that a little bit later on. So in my pot already, I have a huge spoon of garlic and my oil ready to go, and I've already got everything else set up on the bench. I am using slightly larger quantities for my recipe today because I do plan on feeding my household with it later tonight. Alright guys, so select my burner and we'll start cooking. So what we're going to do to start off with is cook out the garlic and the onion. We're going to cook that for about a minute or two, and then we're going to add in the capsicum. I did think about preheating my pan while I was talking before, but I decided against it. You guys can suffer through the silence, assuming I don't keep talking. So basically for my recipe I've used double what the recipe asks for because I'm feeding approximately 4 people. So if you wanted to cook this at home for your family, or your parents wanted to cook it, or your guardians, or whatever, you'd want to do something pretty similar. So you'll need to cook this for, like I said, 1 or 2 minutes, and it is going to take a little bit of time to heat up. Hopefully you can hear that sizzling away now. So ideally we'll cook it out until the onion goes a tiny little bit transparent. We don't want it to start to caramelizing. If we take it that far, we've taken it too far. So in a few minutes, or a minute or so, I'll add the capsicum, and then we'll look at adding the mince and the Mexican spices. So you can see that some of the onion is starting to turn a little bit transparent, so we'll start putting the capsicum in. I think that's the last I needed my chopping board, so I can put that to the side as well. So you'll see that it's slowly coming together. The onion's a little bit transparent. I've got the capsicum in there now, it's got a nice bit of colour. So you only need to cook out the capsicum for about a minute or 2 as well. You'll see that it is starting to leach a bit of its colour into the onion, which is fine. We'll be putting the mince in a second. We're going to use our wooden spoon to break that apart, which will take a little bit of time. We only need to cook the mince out until it starts to lose its colour. So right now it has a pretty distinct shade of red. We're only going to cook it out until it starts to turn a little bit brown, and then we're going to start adding the liquid ingredients. With things like Kangaroo, you don't actually want to overcook them. They go tough if you overcook them, and they can dry out and become pretty unpleasant. It's not really as bad with products like mince, but if you use any of the steaks, it can be an issue. So you can see that there. That onion and garlic is starting to get a bit of colour to it now. Capsicum's looking like it's starting to soften up, so we're going to start adding the next set of ingredients. It's going to be the mince next. You can actually just get some kangaroo mince at the supermarket if you choose to make this. It's pretty reasonably priced. You buy it in 1 kilo packets, and it's about $10 or $11, which is pretty comparable to beef mince. You could replace something like your bolognese with this, or you could use a mixture of both, which is what I'll be doing with the leftovers from this prep. I'll be making a bolognese probably the next couple of days. So just use your wooden spoon to break it up, stir it in the onions. You'll see that it starts to turn brown, same as a regular mince would, once it starts getting a bit of heat through it. It is going to smell a little bit different to your beef mince. Obviously it's going to taste a little bit different too. It's one of the reasons we're doing this prep, for you guys to try some new flavours. Try using some traditional ingredients. So you can see that it's starting to get a bit of that colour through it. It is still clumping together a little bit, but I'll slowly breaking it down with my spoon. I'm going to start adding the spices pretty soon, and then we're going to move on to our liquids. So you'll be using 2 teaspoons of a Mexican spice powder, or chili powder. I've used a little bit extra, so I've probably got about 3. You'll see that adds a nice little reddy orange tinge to the protein straight away, and it will have quite a pleasant aroma. See that the mince is starting to break down quite a bit more. We're ready to start putting in our liquids. We only need to cook this out for a minute or so with the spices, and then we need to get liquid in there so it doesn't dry out. So you guys will be using 1/4 cup of liquid. I've got a half. And you'll be using 400 grams of tomato and a spoon of tomato paste. I've got 800 mils. It's just a larger can basically. And then we basically just reduce this for about 10-20 minutes. Which is not super exciting, so I won't record the whole process. So just give that a quick mix through, turn it down onto a medium to low heat. And then I'll quickly show you what we're doing with the breads. And then I'll probably do a little skip ahead in the video so you guys can see the last, or the finished product, last step and or the finished product I should say. So with your breads, you'll want to get 2 or 3. You might need a larger tray. I only have these round ones at my house, so that's what I'm using. So there's 2 or 3 different ways to go about this. You can just use some vegetable oil, something like this, and just brush some of that onto it, or if you've got an oil spray, you can just lightly spray it. It really doesn't need to be a lot. And then you literally just sprinkle some of this Outback seasoning onto it. Depending on your particular tastes, will depend on probably how much you want to use. This can be pretty strong. So once again, it's going to be up to you as to how much you put on. You're spraying it and then just putting spices on it and putting it straight in the oven. They're going to take 5-10 minutes to cook. I think it's about 180 to 200. And if you want, you can actually chop them up prior to putting in the oven. But once again, pretty much up to you what you do with them. You'll see that this is slowly bubbling away. So I'll probably pause the video here and then edit in the final cut a little bit later on when we're adding the beans and finishing this off. Alright guys, welcome back. We're up to the last legs of the recipe. It's really complex from this point. Basically, you've reduced your sauce. You guys can see that that's getting pretty thick now. That was on for about 10-15 minutes. And now what you need to do is get your beans, your kidney beans, and put them in. Bleh. And now you need to repeat the previous step. Cook for 5 to 10 minutes. Basically, you're just heating up the beans, and then you're ready to serve. Now, I recommend at this point here is when you'd put in your bread, or your flatbread, or any other substitute you have. If you want to use corn chips, you go right ahead. You want to use taco shells, go nuts. Whatever you've got, as long as you've got something to scoop this up with, you're good to go. And now, other than that, guys, it's pretty much done. After that, you get a bowl, you get some kind of spoon or a ladle, and you extract the hot food into the ceramic item, or the plastic item, and then you use either a eating utensil or some kind of bread to extract the food and eat it. I can't help you any further than that. If you're lucky, I'll have a picture of the final product somewhere on the screen. Maybe now, maybe not, who knows. If not, enjoy the rest of your day. See you, bye.